What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Friday so far. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here. And I'm just going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets and why that their defense needs to get back on par to where it was earlier on in the season when Jacque Vaughn first took over as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And the fact that since the defense has tailed off the past few games, it's no coincidence why the Nets have had a little bit of struggles trying to be able to contain against high-powered offenses like the Boston Celtics did the other night when the Nets got destroyed by them by 43 points. Now, we all know the biggest problem with the Brooklyn Nets. It's not even a question. It's their size. The Brooklyn Nets right now lack in defensive size on the wing. Guys that don't know how to defend very well on the wing. As we all know, right now the Brooklyn Nets wing players as we speak are Royce O'Neal, Patty Mills, Seth Curry, Joe Harris. If you want to throw Ben Simmons sometimes on the wing, you could throw him in there. Cam Thomas. You have a couple of other guys you can throw in there too. Yuta Watanabe, Edmund Sumner, TJ Warren. Sumner, Warren, Simmons, and O'Neal are actually pretty good wing defenders. They're actually doing pretty good. But when you have guys like Patty Mills on the court, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Cam Thomas, they are all very explosive on the offensive side of the court. But on the defensive side of the court, they're big-time liabilities. And that's the problem right now with this Brooklyn Nets team, is that they are so unbalanced in terms of not having true complete players on this team besides some of the obvious choices like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Even Kyrie's not that great of a defensive player at all. And Claxton's still working on his offensive game. But that's the biggest conundrum right now. Obviously, we all know the size is the problem too. The Brooklyn Nets lack in size in the interior. We all know that in the front court. But one of the biggest problems with this team, too, is wing defense. How many times against the Boston Celtics were they running out there and they're just getting beaten out off the dribble, getting beaten trying to run out to the three-point line once again and cover the three-point line? Now, I know Boston was on fire that game the other night. They looked like they couldn't miss a three-point shot. But at the same time, the Brooklyn Nets defense on the wing and the perimeter was very poor. They weren't getting out of their rotations very good. They weren't playing very well in the zone defense or even when they were playing man-to-man. And that's also a thing. The Nets are not very athletic defensively on the wing. They're not. Seth Curry gets beaten all the time off the dribble. Cam Thomas, he's a terrific offensive player, a young offensive player, but he's not good on defense. Joe Harris is a liability on the defensive end, as well as Patty Mills. So you can have as much sharpshooting as you want on the offensive side of the court. But until this Brooklyn Nets team is able to defend a lot better, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to compete with some of these other teams in the East. I watched the game last night with Cleveland. Cleveland is a very, very good team offensively, and they're pretty solid defensively. As well as Memphis. Now, I know they're in the Western Conference, but Memphis is a very good team defensively as well. The Brooklyn Nets have got to do a better job on the wing defense. Now, we're only about 6 days away from the NBA trade deadline. Obviously, rumors are running rampant on what's going to happen with this team going forward. Kevin Durant has already stated that he plans to come back by the All-Star game. But it's obvious right now the Nets lack in size in the front court and they lack in good wing defense. But you can make the excuse and say, well, they didn't have TJ Warren, they didn't have Kevin Durant, and they didn't have Ben Simmons. Still, besides Durant, inconsistency. Simmons is a great lockdown defensive player. But my God, is he a major liability on the offensive side. TJ Warren has even tailed off recently a little bit on the offensive end of the court. Defensively as well, he's not been as strong. Maybe he's starting to hit a little bit of that lull period because he is coming back from a serious injury that he suffered a couple of years ago. He had that fractured foot and he had to have multiple surgeries on his foot. But the Nets need to start playing better defense on the wings and the perimeter. If they can start getting their defense back to the position that it was before, maybe this team can start turning the corner. But right now, the Nets just look like a team that could shoot the lights out on some nights, and sometimes their shooting will be able to carry them to victories. But when you get to the NBA playoffs and you need size in the front court, you need defense on the wings, you need guys that are going to play tough on the outside too, the Nets might be in a little bit of trouble. They might be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to the defensive side of the court. So I'm really curious to see what Sean Marks is going to do at the NBA trade deadline. I really am. I'm very curious. There's a lot of rumors going out there on potential deals that Sean Marks might be putting together. But also it might have a lot to do with the fact that the Nets are going to be playing this Saturday against Washington. And news just broke this morning about the Brooklyn Nets game against the Phoenix Suns being flexed to TNT now on Tuesday night. So that game that's going to be at the Barclays Center on Tuesday night will now be flexed to a TNT nationally televised game, which I believe is the last game for the Brooklyn Nets before the trade deadline. And then the Nets play on that Thursday night on the day of the trade deadline. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Sean Marks puts together. But this team has got to play better defense. And if certain guys aren't being able to cut it on the defensive end of the court, sit them. Sit them more and get more of a defensive mindset. Try to go, maybe depending on the matchup you're having against the team you're playing against. But the Nets can't keep giving up over 110, 115 points per game to their opponents. It's just not going to cut it. And Washington, while they are not very good defensively, they have 3 players that are scoring 20-plus points per game. In Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kyle Kuzma. Washington could light it up on the offensive end of the court too. Now, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Ben Simmons and TJ Warren, if they're going to be back for this game on Saturday night against the Wizards. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, obviously Durant's not going to play. The Nets need to do a better job on the defensive end of the court, especially on the perimeter. They needed to be better in perimeter defense. If they can do that, the Nets might be in better shape. But right now, besides the inside and the front court, the Nets' perimeter defense has got to play better, or this can get ugly, and this can get ugly quickly. Especially against very good teams. Because remember, it's not about beating some of the lower-end teams in the Eastern Conference, like a Washington, like a Charlotte, like a Chicago, who they can't beat, even in Atlanta, or even in New York. It's about playing against the best teams in the East. And right now, the Nets have had trouble stacking up against some of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They need to start playing better defense. So I just want to make this video real quickly on why the Nets need to play a lot better on the defensive end on the basketball court, namely on the wings. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button below. Sub up if you haven't already to NYGJeffyT85 for more breaking news, updates, and chatter surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. And you guys in the comment section, let me know if you agree that the Nets need to step up their defense on the wing end of the court. Their wings have got to play better. And I'm talking about Edmund Sumner, Cam Thomas, Patty Mills, Seth Curry, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal. While some of these guys aren't, natural defenders, the first few I mentioned, still, you want to get out there and play a lot of minutes, you got to be a two-way player. So let me know in the comment section what you think and what are your comments and what this Nets team needs to do going into the stretch run in the NBA season. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, TGIF. And let's go Brooklyn Nets. It's a Nets world, and we all just live in it.